You know, the first cell never died. The first cell only split, right? And never divided. And every cell in our body is still an instance of the first cell that split off from that very first cell. There was only one cell on this planet, as far as we know. Joscha Bach. In this life, dying is not new, but living, of course, is not any newer. Sergei Yesenin, the final lines of his suicide note. On the morning of June 11, 1936, Robert E. Howard, best known for his literary creation Conan the Barbarian, receives news that his mother will not wake from the coma she has fallen into and immediately shoots himself. 32 cuts on the surface of the world fall into alignment and trace the outline of a white hole, which must be passed through before it closes. The method for traversal is hidden in a program that underlies a straightforward practice of ancestor worship. Howard's suicide at the age of 30 is an example of the execution of this program and its completion on Earth. Psychopathological diagnostics of self-destructive behavior and contrasting romanticist or post-clinical valorizations of mental illness all obscure and distort a pure moment in time when a basic hatred for life is the same as an indifference towards it. Irrational self-extermination carried out in this moment separates itself from all counterfeits, and suicide becomes militantly ascetic. A method to become dead to the world can also become a method to float above it, and zero interest in metabolic survival is the genesis of the program to attain this state. Ancestor worship is the initial and just barely beyond animal level awareness of both program and state. But when ancestor worship is asceticized, 4 billion years of uninterrupted cellular life are extinguished in a negation which can only be above any and all forms of life. Suicidal action slips through a crack in time of which the rest of the world is unaware, and what from outside looks like absolute defeatism is inner devotion to a higher form of extinction. The concept of a cellular automaton, developed by von Neumann and Ulam in response to the problem of how to design a self-replicating machine, describes a base set of instructions and their iteration through a series of discrete states. A discrete state is a moment in time whose specific properties are equivalent to the particular position and arrangement of the cells that constitute the greater automaton, whereas all discrete states are generated by an initial instruction and belong to the same ongoing series which this instruction sparks. Whatever degree of complexity the properties of a discrete state may demonstrate, they remain reducible to the initial instruction and only designate a moment in time during the instruction's unfolding. Although they are a computational model and accordingly a functional instead of biochemical model, cellular automata depict the operation of an instruction protocol, which is formally equivalent to the origin of life. Abiogenesis and everything that follows from it can be understood as nothing but iterations of an initial command prosecuted in time. Somehow the first cell stabilizes itself 4 billion years ago under a flood of hostile conditions, just long enough to establish the initial instruction for its self-replication. Ascetic self-extermination techniques practiced 4 billion years later understand that their deep trigger is a primal command strong enough not to implode before it can send out its first signal.